Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a interesting video for you all. Today we are going to be doing a video on some of the Disney park tragedies. I am obsessed with Disney. I love Disney so much. I find things that happen there interesting because it's meant to be the happiest place on earth, obviously, and sometimes it really isn't. Yes, they like to hide things and dumb things down, if you know what I mean. But before we get into the video, it would mean the world if you could hit subscribe. I'm really trying to get a new audience in because, like I said in the last couple of videos, I find this so much more pleasing. I really don't know how I'm getting that across. Anyway, and comment down below your thoughts and opinions because that means the world to me as well. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, and if you don't, I'm sorry. I just changed my top because I was getting too hot. But just jumping straight in, so obviously Disney is the happiest place on earth, and I've actually been to all of the 3 main Disneys. Not to brag. So there has actually obviously not been that many tragedies. Now there obviously has, I don't want to like put down that number. However, when you think about it, millions and millions and millions have been visiting Disney parks since it literally opened. I'm pretty sure the California one opened in 1955, and I'm going to talk about some of the stats. So it's been reported as of August 2023 that 64 people have died at Disney World in Florida. So that's in the parks or on one of the resorts, which when you think, yes, it's awful, but when you think about it, 64 people isn't actually that much, and a lot of them are natural causes, please remember. So they do quite a good job at not having deaths put under them. And as of November 2023, 29 people have reportedly died at the Disneyland resorts in California. A lot less, and the California one's obviously been around for many more years. It's also a lot smaller. And I couldn't find any stats on Disneyland Paris, but we are going to discuss some of them today. But I just found some ones that I found interesting and I collected them together. I did my little research. A few of them are quite short, but I just wanted to do this video because I know people find Disney interesting as well as me. It's going to be in time order. These aren't all of the tragedies that have happened, but they're ones I selected. Disneyland's first fatality. Disneyland California was a perfectly safe amusement park from 1955 when the park opened all the way until May of 1964, so a good 9 years without any issues. It was 1959 when the ride called the Matterhorn bobsled opened, and this was one of the thrill rides in the park. It was a quick and jerky trip around a track inside a snow-capped mountain, and to keep them safely inside, riders wore lap belts when they were in their bobsleds. Their flawless record of no deaths sadly came to an end when 15-year-old Mark Maples died while riding the Matterhorn bobsled. And obviously, like most rides, it's crucial that you keep your hands, legs, arms and body inside the vehicle at all times, and he didn't. It was approaching midnight when Mark Maples of Long Beach got in line for the Matterhorn bobsled with his 2 teenage classmates. He was enjoying the freedom as his parents had just released him from a weeks-long grounding so he could attend the after-hours elk club with his brothers. Now, the details of what happened next are quite murky. He sat in the middle seat and it was dark, so the other boys that he was with couldn't see him or what happened. The bobsled was beginning its descent down the mountain when one boy felt Mark bump into him. He said, quote, "There was no way to tell what he was doing. It's a bumpy kind of ride." The other boy added, quote, "I was looking up, heard a noise, looked down and recognised Mark's sweater as he was falling out the side." Terrifying. Disneyland officials speculated that Mark unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up on the ride, apparently striking his head on the side of the concrete mountain and falling vertically about 1 foot, landing beside the tracks of the sled. And they estimated that this bobsled was going around 20 miles per hour at the time of the incident. Mark's father told the press the next day that ride operators didn't actually even believe the boys at first when they said that their friend had fallen out, and it was not until 2 other girls that they didn't know were in the car, like bobsled behind them, and verified the story, and then the ride was shut down. When paramedics arrived, Mark was found unconscious. He was rushed to hospital with broken ribs, several internal injuries and fractured skull. The boy sadly never regained consciousness, and he was put on a ventilator, but he died 4 days later. It's so sad. Ultimately, the confusion of the night and the age of the witnesses meant that there was no definite answer of how Mark fell from his bobsled. Both the boys and the evidence refuted the hazing allegation, and a week after Mark's fall, the Anaheim police chief ruled his death was purely accidental. This is a tricky one. It's absolutely awful and devastating that this happened to him. He was so young, but it's a tricky one because if he did take his seatbelt off, then yeah, that is his fault, kind of. And they do say keep your arms and stuff inside the vehicle, don't move, but again, I don't know. A lot of these Disney things are murky. Number 2, don't sneak into Disneyland. Each year, the graduating class at California High School embark on a Disneyland trip for grad night. In June 1966, 19-year-old Thomas Guy Cleveland was killed while attempting to sneak into Disneyland, Anaheim, that Disney, California. Thomas managed to climb over the park's 16-foot fence and onto a monorail track leading into the park. The devious plans seemed to be working until a security guard noticed him. To make matters worse, a monorail was also making its way along the track towards Thomas at 25 miles per hour. The guard shouted at Thomas to watch out for the approaching monorail. Thomas jumped and landed on a fiberglass canopy beneath the track. Unfortunately, the canopy did not provide enough support, and the underside of the monorail car struck him and dragged his body 40 feet down the track. And by the time the monorail had made a complete stop, his body had been literally torn to pieces. Absolutely awful. Oh my god. But I'm not really sure what happened after that. I'm sure that isn't Disney's fault. How you aren't allowed to go there. You just aren't. Oh wow. Moving on to another ride injury. So Disneyland's People Mover ride was only open for a month before a teen died while trying to jump from car to car back in 1967. On August 21st, 1967, Ricky Yama from Hawthorne, California, who was around 17 years old, decided to disobey the rules of the People Mover, and he lost his footing while trying to jump between cars. He stumbled and fell onto the tracks. He was then struck by another vehicle on the track. He was dragged for several hundred feet before the ride was stopped, which they could have stopped it quicker. But again, I don't want to victim blame. That is awful and it's just so sad, but why are you jumping from car to car? Now this next one is devastating. It breaks my heart, this one. I've known about this for a while, but it's a drowning. So on June 22nd, 1973, 18-year-old Bogdan and his younger 10-year-old brother, Dorian Delorette, were visiting Disneyland. They had travelled from Brooklyn, New York to Anaheim, California with their family. And as Tom Sawyer's Island was getting ready to close for the day, the brothers decided that they wanted to stay on the island. While staff escorted visitors onto the boats to return back to the park as the island was shutting, Bogdan and Dorian jumped a fence and hid in the woods behind the burning settler's cabin. I don't really know where their parents were at this point. One of the brothers was 18, so they probably thought he could look after his 10-year-old brother. Around 9:30 p.m, the brothers decided to leave the island and go back to the main park. But because they didn't want to get into trouble, they thought it would be best to swim across the rivers of America rather than calling for help or trying to get help at all. The two boys then decided to swim across the rivers of America despite the fact that the younger boy, aged 10, didn't know how to swim. Bogdan decided to carry his brother on his back while he attempted to swim to shore. Sadly, Bogdan drowned halfway across the river. The 10-year-old managed to stay afloat by doggy paddling until a ride operator was able to come and rescue him. Thank God that he got rescued, but sadly Bogdan, the 18-year-old, his body was found the following morning. Devastating. You just wouldn't expect that. You'd think you could swim across. Like, it's not that far of a swim. Oh my God, that breaks my heart, that one. This one is another just bizarre one. Like, this is quite obviously Disney's fault. The other ones they're a bit murky, like I said, but this one is 1,000,000% Disney's fault. Disney opened their America Sings attraction in the summer of 1974. This seemingly docile attraction featured a rotating theatre and singing robot animals. Very simple. I mean, what could go wrong? On July 8th, 1974, 9 days after the show opened, an 18-year-old hostess was killed at the show. know. Wait till you hear this. It's crazy. So exactly what went wrong remains a mystery to this day. Her job was just to greet each new audience as they settled into the seating area. Very simple job. I mean, what could go wrong? Somehow, Deborah Stone, poor girl, got stuck near a moving theatre wall and was crushed against a stationary wall as the show rotated back to its starting position. Standing to the left of the stage, she welcomed the Disneyland guests over a microphone before the outer ring rotated and carried the audience to the first scene of the carousel. About 11 p.m. that evening, Deborah approached too closely to the area between the rotating theatre wall and the non-moving stage wall and was crushed to death between them. That's just terrifying. I can't even get that. Audience members heard Deborah scream, but it was too late. Deborah suffered a gruesome death before operators arrived at the scene. The horrible accident was resolved with a small settlement between Disney and Deborah's family. After this, safety lights were then installed and the walls of the theatre were redesigned so that they could break away in similar situations. And this attraction was officially shut down in 1988. Why did it continue going on for 14 years? Like, just out of respect. I find this one absolutely appalling. Like, this was obviously Disney's fault. That was one of their workers. She didn't do anything wrong. Disney should have had the safety precautions that they are added after this in place before. Now we have another drowning. On August 11th, 1977, a 4-year-old boy from Illinois drowned in the moat surrounding Cinderella Castle. The little boy, called Joel Good, climbed over a fence around the 5-foot deep moat. He fell in and he died. His mother sued Magic Kingdom for negligence, claiming the fence around the moat was too short. It was no higher than 31 inches tall, according to her lawyer, which is very, very short. However, the case was tossed out 4 years later when the judge ruled that the mother, quote, failed in her duty to control the child of tender years. I see both points of views in this case. Like, you have got to keep your eye on your child 24/8. But then again, there is no, like, they should have precautions. Disney is aimed at children and they're having a deep blimmin' moat around this castle with hardly any precautions in place. I just don't get that. So Disney, it's your fault. This one is crazy. Oh my god. So on March 7th, 1981, Mel Yorba was fatally stabbed with a knife during a fight with a 28-year-old man called James O'Driscoll. So keep in mind, this boy's 18 and he's having a fight with a 28-year-old. Anyway, this was after Mel supposedly attempted to pinch this man's girlfriend's bum in Tomorrowland. This is the first homicide in a venue which was usually known as the happiest place on earth. The details surrounding this tragic death are slightly murky again, but multiple reports state that Mel Yorba and his group of friends were highly intoxicated while enjoying their Disneyland visit. And what then happened was Mel apparently pinched the bum of James O'Driscoll's girlfriend, which, disgusting, don't do that. But then getting stabbed for it, I don't know. That was when James chased Mel down for an apology, which, fair enough. And instead of just apologising, Mel punched James in the face. Again, really, really wrong. And this fight quickly escalated into the two of them rolling around on the ground before eventually being separated. That is when Mel Yorba's friends noticed the 2 stab wounds on his chest and the pool of blood surrounding him. Oh my god. James O'Driscoll decided it was best to vacate the premises, but not before throwing the murder weapon into Sleeping Beauty's castle moat and discarding his blood-soaked shirt into the trash can in a women's restroom. Mel, meanwhile, bled for 20 minutes before a Disneyland nurse did her best to try and care for his injury. Now, Disneyland's policy at the time did not allow police in the park, as obviously it might shatter the air of magic and fantasy. And regular ambulances were also not allowed into the park for the same reason. Oh my god, I've never heard of something so stupid in my life. And therefore, an unmarked van took even longer to get to Mel before whisking him off to a nearby hospital, where he very sadly was pronounced dead. His family sued the park for $60 million, and while the family did not receive the full amount, they instead got $600K. The jury did find the Disney park negligent for not summoning outside medical help during the assault, which is so true. I mean, yeah, this guy, he shouldn't have pinched someone's bum. Like, that is absolutely out of order. That's assault. But to get stabbed, I mean, that is a little bit extreme. I know if someone pinched my bum, I'd be fuming, but I wouldn't want them to die. This is probably the most bizarre death I have ever heard of. Well, at Disney. It's crazy. This is so sad, but it's just really random. A 2-year-old local girl from Florida died on April 6th, 1982 in Walt Disney World after being crushed by, of all things, a falling menu board. I know. When I read that, I didn't think it was real. Reports say she was standing in line with her family outside the tiki-themed Coral Isle coffee shop. It's now rebranded as the Kona Cafe. And this was when she, aged 2, and her 12-year-old sister were playing with a rope tied to this large menu board. In an extremely unfortunate series of events, the unattended girls pulled the rope, freeing the sign from its fasteners, and the board fell on top of this little 2-year-old, crushing her and killing her instantly. Oh my god, that's awful. I mean, yeah, they shouldn't have been playing around with it, but surely they should have been fastened to the wall a bit more. Like, surely a 12-year-old and a 2-year-old can't cause that much, like, can't pull that hard. Oh my god, this one is so sad. They're all really sad because it's just like all of them happened at Disney and it's like, oh. Anyway, on October 9th, 1989, a 33-year-old woman called Pat Schenk from Glen Cove, New York, was killed when a tiny speedboat collided with a ferry boat. She and her 8-year-old son had rented a small boat to try and videotape friends and family members who were water skiing in the Seven Seas Lagoon. They were then broadsided by a ferry. The boy was pulled from the water without serious injury. Luckily, a crew member and a visitor of the ferry dove into the water and they rescued her son. And it took more than 30 minutes to locate Pat's body, his mum's body, but sadly she died at the scene. Oh my god, that is just crushing. Someone actually said, quote, "She literally just drove right in front of the boat. They could do nothing." It's so sad. I'm assuming she wasn't looking properly because she obviously was they were trying to videotape their friends and they probably were not looking the right way, and it's something you just would not expect. I'm glad the little boy was okay, but wow, witnessing that of your mum, awful. This one is just disgusting. This is obviously Disney's fault, this next one, and shocking. A Disneyland visitor was killed while simply waiting to board a ride in 1998. I know, just waiting to ride, just waiting. What? A piece of metal flung off the classic Columbia ride and hit a man and his wife in the face. The man, Luan Phi Dawson, died from his injury, and his wife, Lee Fo Vong, aged 43, was also critically injured in the accident. She remained hospitalised for a while and she now has lasting injuries to her face. And even worse, their son was standing next to them when it happened. There was a third victim of this accident. It was Disneyland employee Christine Carpenter, but he managed to remain in stable condition at hospital, but he did have serious leg and foot injuries. So this accident occurred around 10:40 a.m. on a Thursday in 1998 as lots of visitors came and packed into the park. At the time, the Columbia, an 84-foot 1950s vintage tall ship replica, approached the dock after a routine voyage through the Rivers of America attraction. The ship runs on an underwater track. Witnesses said a rope used to secure the ship, as it was docking, tore loose a metal cleat. The metal fixture flew through the air, striking these two tourists and entangling that employee at dockside. I can't believe this happened. Like, how? They were literally just queuing up for a ride. It scares me how quick your life can be taken from you. Oh my god. Next we have a hostage situation. So scary. Oh my god. On June 29th of the year 2000, Bismarck Rodriguez and his 4-year-old son checked into the Boardwalk Inn, which is a lovely resort in Florida, Disney. Bismarck allegedly hadn't seen his wife and 3 of their children in months, and he believed that a room service waiter who worked at this Boardwalk Inn knew something. He made repeated room service orders to try and get the man into his room, but he wasn't having any luck. So in the end, Bismarck, armed with a .357 caliber Magnum handgun, took his own son and a random waiter hostage, like not even the one that he wanted. Ridiculous. During this hostage situation, Bismarck called a local Orlando news station to complain that he hadn't seen his wife and other 3 children in weeks and wanted to see them. Amid the chaos, a few guests were evacuated from their rooms, like just the ones surrounding this hostage room. But other than this, genuinely no one knew. Like, everything just happened as normal. Even when police helicopters arrived, no guests knew. Disney are literally the CEOs of keeping everything shum. After 11 hours of negotiation, Bismarck finally surrendered on the condition that he was allowed to see his children, and thankfully no one was injured in this incident. But oh my god, sorry, why is he doing that for his own son? I mean, yeah, talk about a way to get someone's attention and to see your kids, but I wouldn't want this man around my kids either. There was probably a good reason why. I hope that 4-year-old is okay now. Like, that is so scary, and the fact he had a gun. Oh. Moving on, in 2003 at Disneyland, California, 1 man died and 10 other riders were hurt when train cars filled with passengers broke loose from a locomotive in a dark tunnel of Disneyland's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad attraction. The accident occurred around 11:20 a.m. after the lead car, which was decorated to resemble a small red engine, and the open-top passenger cars sped through the fake desert landscape and uphill into a tunnel where the cars separated and the locomotive derailed. How does this happen? Moments after the accident, riders clambered from their cars and agitated park guests ran out calling for help. 2 young men cried, "Someone is hurt bad, it's really serious, get someone up here." Authorities said that passengers were trapped in the cavern for up to an hour before Anaheim firefighters and paramedics could even get them out. Frontierland was quickly sealed off and the park employees politely had to put guests off from entering the area. Authorities identified the dead man as 22-year-old Marcelo Torres. He was in the front passenger car and they had to get him out from it. And there was 10 other riders ranging in ages from 9 to 47, and they were treated for moderate to minor injuries in hospitals. I find this so sad, and it's the fact that the people that were stuck there had to be for an hour, sit or stand, I don't know, next to a dead body. So, oh my god, that is traumatic. And among those that were hurt, most severely injured was Vicente Gutierrez, a 22-year-old man. He suffered facial cuts and chest injuries and broken ribs, and he was actually listed as serious condition at the UCI Medical Center at the time. Obviously not now, but that is terrifying. This next one is so sad. Oh my god, and it's just, I don't mean, like, it didn't make me laugh. I don't want to say laugh because it's obviously the opposite of something from funny, but it's the way that it was wrote. So if you've been to Disney, there's the parades, which are, oh my god, they're just incredible. I love the parades. They're the best. I think they're like one of the best part of going to Disney. They're so magical with all the songs and the gorgeous floats. So when I read this, I just went like, huh? Because I genuinely, it's just something you would not expect to happen. On February 11th, 2004, 38-year-old cast member Javier Cruz died when he was accidentally run over by the Beauty and the Beast parade float in a backstage area of Magic Kingdom near the Splash Mountain ride. And he was actually dressed as Pluto at the time. That is rough. Oh my god. Javier Cruz was towards the end of the parade and was about to enter the park when he was hit. And it isn't actually known if any visitors witnessed this, but he'd worked at the park for 8 years and he apparently absolutely adored his job. So this just breaks my heart. And there's a picture of him actually that day dressed as Pluto meeting someone. It's so eerie, like that. Oh, it gives me the chills. I feel awful for him. This one is just wow. On November 27th, 2007, 63-year-old Karen Price, an employee, was hit by one of the moving vehicles and fell from a platform while working as a ride attendant on the roller coaster Primavera Whirl in Animal Kingdom. When it happened, Karen was conscious, alert and talking at the time of the injury, but her condition worsened and she sadly died from a brain injury just 4 days later. So awful. There was fines put against them, obviously. That is definitely Disney's fault. Poor woman. Another one, awful. So a Disneyland Paris employee was trapped under a boat when It's a Small World, after all, turned on while he was cleaning it. He later died that night because a helicopter had to come and get him and take him to hospital, but sadly he did pass. How did they not know? Someone was literally friggin' cleaning this ride and turned it on. Oh my god, it baffles me. Now this one is so eerie, and the fact it was in the Phantom Manor ride, oh my god. So in 2016, workers at Disneyland Paris found a deceased employee inside the popular Phantom Manor ride. Can you actually imagine witnessing that? It was later revealed that the worker was repairing a faulty light fixture on the ride before the park had even opened when he was accidentally electrocuted. Oh my god, that is terrifying. I mean, at least no kids found him, I guess. And then lastly, we have the most awful one. Well, they're all awful, but this one's just tragic. So tragic. So on June 14th, 2016, a 2-year-old boy from Nebraska was splashing around in the shallows of the Seven Seas Lagoon at 9:15 p.m. on a Tuesday and was pulled in and attacked by an alligator from the shoreline of the Seven Seas Lagoon, which is an artificial lake at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort, which is a gorgeous resort. Me and Toby ate in there when we went. And this is where the family had been staying since only Sunday. They didn't even get to enjoy much of their vacation together. Guests and this little boy and his family had been enjoying an open air movie and were watching fireworks from the nearby Magic Kingdom. And this is when an alligator, estimated at between 4 and 7 feet, attacked him. The family, including the boy's 4-year-old sister, were on the shoreline at the resort's lake, while the 2-year-old boy was wading at the edge of the water and his parents were close by. He was only about a foot in, maybe ankle deep or a little higher. There is a sign that says no swimming, however there was no indication that he was doing that. He was not swimming. He literally was just at the edge of this water. He wasn't even swimming, and this is the most freakish incident. Anyway, that's when it occurs and the alligator comes along and latches on to this 2-year-old boy. The father was very close by and he actually heard what sounded like a splash. He turned and he thought the splash was something innocent, and this is when he saw his child in the mouth of this alligator. He ran to try and get his son out of this alligator's mouth and he wrestled with the alligator, but he was not successful. The alligator was able to get the child away from the father and disappeared into the water. Oh my god. After an 18-hour search, finally this poor boy's remains were recovered, and after 5 alligators were removed from the property, the medical examiner ruled that he died of drowning and traumatic injuries. It was reported that the resort would now put up signs warning guests about alligators. Oh, could they not have done that before? Guys, when I tell you there is so many alligators in this Disney Florida resort, like, obviously Florida's known for alligators anyway, but there's so many at Disney, and the fact they didn't have signs up before this is shocking. Like, actually shocking to me. I don't even understand. Could they not just simply put a sign up? I was even scared. Like, when me and Toby went, we were even scared of these alligators. I just find that terrifying. What if you were walking back drunk and fell in? Oh my god. Anyway, that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. These are just some crazy cases of events and tragedies at Disney. If you want a part 2, let me know, because there's so many more that I missed out. I just thought these were the most disturbing, interesting ones. But yeah, please subscribe. It would mean the world, and leave a comment down below. Let's discuss the video. Give it a thumbs up. I love you.